go to tomguitar.co.uk right now to check out the free guide, Boost Your Picking Speed by 50%. It covers the 7 most common mistakes everybody makes when they're learning speed picking. If you're making any of these mistakes, then you can't get progress. So check out that guide and hopefully it can help you massively boost your picking speed. That's at tomguitar.co.uk. Now on with the free lesson. Right then guys, so this lesson today is all about putting in effort and not putting in effort when you're playing guitar. So this might sound like a weird thing. What do we mean by putting in effort or not putting in effort? Well, you hear a lot of people say when they're talking about learning guitar, oh well, if I want to get really good, then I've got to put in lots of effort. I've got to do loads of really hard work. You know, I've got to do all the practicing. I've got to get my hands really strong so I can press all the notes and everything and play faster. And you know, if you're watching Yngwie Malmsteen, for instance, you might be watching him and think, wow, well, he must have put in a lot of effort to get to that level. You know, that doesn't happen overnight. And you might be thinking, well, surely when he's playing, you know, it must take a tremendous amount of strength there to get to that level, you know, and to be able to actually perform all those motions without your hands tiring out. Because when I try it at home, well, you know, I can only play a couple of bars before my hands start, you know, tensing up and I can't play any faster and I can't play any longer. Well, let's say you're watching Joe Satriani, for instance, brilliant player. You'll be watching him do all of his legato stuff and his pick tapping, and you'll think, oh, well, you know, that must take a lot of physical effort to be able to do that. You must have to try really hard. But really, there's 2 kinds of effort on guitar, and it's really important to understand what they are, because if you get the wrong kind when you're talking about putting in hard work, you're just going to sabotage your progress and you're not going to get anywhere. Instead of going up like this and keep getting better, you're just going to go down and worse and worse and worse. Okay? So the 2 kinds of effort. Now the first one is good effort. So this is like, when we talk about effort, we mean putting in the practice hours, you know, spending all day playing guitar if you want to, really getting absorbed in that guitar world, listening to all the albums by your favourite shred guitar players, you know, watching live videos of them, trying to copy them, learning their songs, having fun jamming to backing tracks, all that kind of thing, just getting immersed in the world of guitar and music. And that's the first kind of effort that we're going to talk about. So that's good effort, because that means, oh, well, if you're putting in lots of effort, that means putting in lots of practice time, and if you're practicing a lot and you're playing guitar a lot, then you're going to get much better at it. Now the second kind of effort is like physical effort. So this is the kind of effort you'll put in if you're, say, going to the gym, or you're lifting something heavy off the floor, or you're going for a run. This is not the kind of effort you want to put in when you're practicing guitar, because if you're really trying hard in a physical sense, you're going to really limit your abilities. Now why is this? Well, playing guitar does not take a lot of physical effort. Now, if you've seen some of my blog articles before, you'll have seen me say that when you're pressing down guitar strings, it really doesn't require a lot of force at all. In fact, it requires a lot less force to press down a guitar string than most people think. Now, the force that you actually need to press down the string with is about the same weight as a large apple. So it's really not a lot. When you see somebody really squeezing the guitar neck like this and putting in a load of force and, yeah, I'm pressing this note really hard, you know, and they've got all the lines in their tips of their fingers from the strings, and sometimes the calluses even rip when they're doing bends and everything. If that's you, that means you're putting in way too much physical effort to play guitar. Now, sure, you might get limited results that way, but if you want to get really good, especially when we're talking about shred and we're talking about playing fast, then you really need to make sure that you're not putting in that much effort. So the good effort that you should put in is practice time, actually spending time with the guitar, you know, in the same way that somebody would put a lot of effort in, say, to practice their geography for a geography exam at school, you know, just that kind of thing, that kind of effort where we mean putting in a lot of time. But the bad kind of effort that we don't want to use is like hard physical effort. If you pick up the guitar and then after you've practiced for, say, half an hour, it feels like you've done a workout, then you're doing something really wrong there, because it doesn't require a lot of physical force to press down the notes on guitar, like we just said. So what does this mean? Why is it a bad thing to put in more physical effort than you actually need to? Well, here's the thing. If you're putting in more physical effort, that means each note takes more energy to play. Now, if it takes more energy, it's more difficult. If it's more difficult, then you can't do it as fast. So if you want to play fast, then you need to make sure you're only putting in the absolute minimum of effort. So let's do an example here of an exercise you can do to help get used to this new way of looking at effort on guitar and the physical force that you put in. So let's pick any note. So I'm going to pick the 7th fret on the G string, for instance, and I'm fretting that with my index finger. You can do this basically anywhere. You can do it down here, up here, whatever. The point isn't where the exercise is, but what it is. So then you pick that note, you just press the note down, and then just pick it. And then you just keep picking it, and keep pressing a little bit lighter with your left hand until you don't get any note anymore. So now I'm not pressing the string down, my finger's just resting on the string. It's just going like that, I'm not actually getting a note. So there, I started off pressing fairly firmly, and then I was loosening off the pressure that I'm putting down with my left hand until I don't get a note anymore. So what's the point of this? It sounds like a really weird exercise to do, but basically the point is to get you used to the sensation of not pressing too hard with your fretting hand. Because the harder you press with your fretting hand, the more awkward it is, the more muscular force you're having to use, and the slower you're going to play. So if you want to play fast, you need to put in less physical effort. So the idea of doing this exercise is to get used to that, get used to not putting in so much effort. Now once you've done it a few times and you've got used to that sensation of not actually getting to that point where you're not even pressing the note down at all, then you need to just press down a tiny bit harder than that, just enough so that the note sounds. So you press down like you normally would, and then, okay, yeah, and releasing the pressure, and then that's when I stop getting a note. Okay, so I'll press down a tiny bit harder, and that's where the note is, and you'll be like, wow, I can't believe it takes so little force to actually press down the notes on guitar. You know, you can do it with all of your fingers, so you can do it with, say, the little finger up here, and say, okay, I'm pressing the note down, and then I'm using so little force I'm not actually getting a note anymore, and then press just down a tiny bit harder just until you get the note. And this gets you used to the idea of, how little physical effort it really takes to push down the notes, because the less effort you put in, the faster you can play. So by doing this, you're really getting used to playing lighter, and the lighter you play, the faster. So the next stage in this exercise is to take any kind of normal scale phrase, or even just a scale up and down. So we could take, for instance, the B minor scale just in one octave, just going up and down. So that's the 7th fret of the low E string, and then the 9th fret, and then the 10th fret, and then 7, 9, 10 on the A string again, and then 7 and then 9 on the D string. So play the scale up and down a couple of times just to get used to it. And then once you've done that, try the same thing that we just did, but on every single note of the scale. So every time you press down a note, pick it a few times and get to that point. Start loosening off your left hand until you get to the point where you're not actually pressing down a note at all, and then just press down a tiny bit harder, and that's how much force you should put in. So there I was doing the first note of the scale, and then go to the next note of the scale and do the same thing. There you go, that's the amount of force I need to do. And do that, and once you've got used to that with each finger on all of these strings, then try playing the scale up and down and say, okay, how lightly can I press my fingers down? So this isn't a speed exercise at all. Now what I mean here by this isn't a speed exercise is that you don't want to play fast when you're doing it. So when you're actually practicing the exercise, forget about speed altogether. But it is a speed exercise in another sense, and it is a speed exercise in the sense that if you do it, it will enable you to play faster in the long run, okay? So forget about speed while you're practicing this exercise, but once you've done it a few times, you'll start to feel your speed increase, okay? So then you just play the scale up and down and say, okay, how relaxed and how effortless can I press down these notes? You might have to do it really slowly at first. Just like this, just to get it really nice and relaxed and effortless. So then, once you've done that, then you can compare that to how you were playing before. So if you then go back to what you were doing before and you were going in and pressing really hard with your fretting hand notes, and then compare it to the new way of playing where you're just really relaxed. Now this new way might take a little bit to get used to, but once you're used to it, you'll be able to play much faster in the long run just by practicing it. So it isn't something you have to do for hours, it's just something for 5 or 10 minutes here and there that gets you used to just playing with less effort. So we talked about the two different kinds of effort that there are on guitar. So you've got, putting in the time kind of effort, and then you've got physical effort. So putting in the time, yeah, do as much of that as you can, it's brilliant. But physical effort wise, put in as little as possible. Don't think about trying hard. Don't think about forcing your speed to that next level. Don't think about any of that at all. Instead, come back to these couple of exercises that we did here, where we were talking about pressing really nice and lightly and as light as possible, and seeing how lightly you can play and still get a clean note, and practice those until it becomes really easy to play like that and it's just natural. So I hope that's been a really useful video for you. So practice that exercise. It's really simple. It sounds strange, it sounds a bit weird, but once you try it, you'll realise how much difference it really makes. The less you press down with your left hand, the less physical effort you put in, the faster you're going to be able to play. Okay, so I hope that's been really useful for you. Don't forget to check out tomguitar.co.uk for that free picking guide. It's right there on the page for you. You don't have to pay for anything. And hopefully then we'll see you in the next lesson.